Well, it's time to talk law. Our resident lawyer, Despina Priala of boutique law firm Priala Legal in Runaway Bay, with us each and every Thursday. She brings her legal expertise and provides some general advice on the latest hot topics. She has experience that spans more than a quarter of a century in areas of property and commercial law. She also prepares wills as part of estate planning and litigation. With us once again. Hello, Despina.
Good morning, Wayne. Good morning, Brooke.
Good morning, Despina. Good morning, Wayno. So we're kicking off this morning with a question. It's question time. Thank you so much, Tanya, for getting in contact with us with this question for Despina. So she wanted to know, in regards to our chat last week, we were talking about digital estate planning and why it's so important to put that plan in place. So Tanya quickly phoned and said, look, I have a couple of apps that I buy stocks and shares through. And she wanted to know what happens to those accounts and her money if she was to pass away. So, Despina, that is your question for today. What would you say to that?
Okay, so first of all, I had a very quick look at the Sharesies, which was one of the apps, and I had a look at the website. And I think the long and the short of it is you really need to reach out to these companies and actually ask the question. Because when I went onto that particular website, under the frequently asked questions, there was nothing in there about what happens when you die, when you pass away, and what happens to your investments in your accounts. It looks like it's set up so obviously you have to have cash to be able to invest, and they do that on your behalf. And interestingly, Sharesies are investments held by New Zealand registered company. Sharesies Nominee Limited. So you even might have legislation, not in Australia, but in New Zealand, that actually applies under those terms and conditions as to what happens to those assets. So I think if I had that and I wasn't aware of what was going to happen, I would just reach out, ask the question directly, which you can do online, to the company and say, what happens to my account when I pass away, and get that in writing.
Yep. As you mentioned last week, conditions change depending on who you happen to deal with. Every platform has different conditions, and it really is a matter of checking with each one, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. So that's what I would do. I'd recommend reaching out 100%.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Despina. There you go, Tanya. Thank you for writing in. Alrighty. So moving on now to downsizing. More people are wanting smaller homes or living more of a free kind of lifestyle, and manufactured home parks, aka land lease communities, and retirement villages are becoming more and more popular. But Despina, why is it so important? Because obviously these are different. You know they're different, but what is the difference, and why is it so important for people and maybe residents looking to jump in to these type of living? What's the difference, and why is it so important to understand?
Okay, so I've been dealing with this for a very long time, and the reason why it is important for people to understand is, look, it's a lifestyle, and it's a money issue as well. So you're trying to decide your next move. You're at a stage in your life where you want to downsize. There are various options depending on your age and your financial capability. But at the end of the day, you need to be able to make an informed decision about what is best for you. And to do that, in order to make that informed decision, you need to understand how each structure works. And the two that I primarily deal with are your manufactured home parks, or land lease communities as they're commonly known now, or retirement villages. Okay, and most of my clients that come to me will go into one or the other. And there are very big differences between the two. Most people I deal with up front don't understand the two differences. Some people think manufactured home parks are retirement villages, and they're absolutely not. And there are quite some big differences that I'd like to be able to explain, if we can, in this short segment, to people out there listening who may be thinking, well, we're about to downsize. I don't know what to do, and I don't know the differences. So let's see if we can help them with that this morning. So let's talk about manufactured home parks first. And they've been around for a very long time, for decades, and they're actually known as caravan parks originally. And that's where they've really evolved from over the years. And they've now actually evolved in some cases to be quite luxurious manufactured homes within these resorts. And the resorts have even involved as well, where they've provided now even more amenities for people living in these gated communities. Okay, so when you go into these communities, these over 50s resorts, as they're also commonly known, you are buying a house which is considered a chattel. The chattel is yours, the house is yours. So you buy it, sometimes it's already existing, or sometimes you're buying it, it's constructed off-site, and then it'll be constructed and placed on the site later on. But essentially, you're buying a home, the home's put on a site, so site 90, for example, in a resort. You don't own the land. The park owner still owns the entire parcel of land, and there are all these houses on different plots, on different sites within the resort. Sometimes there could be 100, could be 200, could be 300, depends what the approval provides. So you don't own the land, but you pay site rent to be able to put your house that you own yourself, it's yours, nobody else owns it, on this site, right? And basically you pay rent under a site agreement in perpetuity, meaning it's supposed to continue forever and a day until you wish to terminate, meaning you want to sell your home down the track to someone else. And with these manufactured home parks, look, they're very good options for people who want to downsize, particularly because it is independent living, to get that right. There's no assisted living involved, so you've got to be independent, particularly physically and otherwise. But you own the home, you pay site rent, you do get subsidised by the government through Centrelink for your site rent if you meet the eligibility criteria. I will say that, not just everybody gets a blanket subsidy. So you're going to go to Centrelink after you buy that home and move in and see if you're eligible. So you arrange of facilities, like I said, pools, gyms, libraries, dining rooms, bowling greens, barbecue areas. They're very extensive now with some of them. Typically, you can bring your pets with the approval of the park owner. Typically, you do own the home either with someone or on your own. So if you're buying it with your partner, you can own it as joint tenants or tenants in common, like real property. You also sometimes have the option where you might enter into a relationship later in life with someone, but you're buying the home, it's your money. Or maybe some other reasons from a risk and liability perspective, but you can actually sign the site agreement. So it's like a lease, a site agreement in your name only, but your partner can come in and live with you as an authorized occupant, but not be on the site agreement. Yeah. Sure. So it gives that flexibility a little bit. And the big thing is you sell the home later on. You keep all the sale proceeds, minus your agent's commission and legals, but essentially the net sale proceeds are yours. You don't pay anything to that park owner in the way of exit fees, which is totally opposite to the retirement village model. Yeah, so that's the big difference between the two, the big difference. And it's not right for everybody. It depends, as I said, on your individual circumstances, where you are in your life, what age you are, how independent you are, and I suppose what your intentions are at the end, depending on your age, I suppose, as I said.
And of course, as you get older, then your options could actually change. So you might have started out in one of the home parks and then need a retirement village later on.
Exactly. So the big thing people need to understand, manufactured home parks do not have an adjunct nursing home. They never work like that. They're not given approvals for that. It's got an approval on its own. So if you need that assisted living later on, you do have to sell the home. You do have to move to another type of accommodation. But in saying that, retirement villages don't always have nursing homes either, adjunct. You've got to still, if you go into a retirement village as an independent person, and then later on you actually, if something happens to you, you have operations, or you need that assisted living, not all retirement villages can provide it. You actually still have to go through the process of selling and then moving to a nursing home. So you really have to look at the structures carefully. And as I said, the big difference is the exit fee. So in the retirement villages, you pay your income and contribution, so like a purchase price. You leasing these units, particularly these apartments in retirement villages or homes. But when you vacate, I'll use that word nicely. So vacate is typically maybe when you pass away, or you actually you need to leave and go to a different accommodation, alternate accommodation. So when you vacate, there's this deferred management fee, which we call it an exit fee, typically in layman's terms. But your deferred management fee is a percentage of the resale value when you sell that particular unit Typically, each village is different though, and it can go anywhere from 15% up to 40%, depending on how long. So say if you've only been there for 1 year, it's on the lower scale. If you've been there for 3 years or more, it's on the higher scale, 35 to 40%. If you pass away, you might think, well, I don't really care, I'm gone. But your estate and your family and your next of kin are going to deal with that. And there's not just exit fees. People don't know. You've got to pay renovation costs, repair costs, legal fees to the operator, marketing costs, other expenses when you vacate, whenever that is. So there's a lot of expense going out the door later on.
Yeah, wow.
But yeah, so
it sounds like it could be thousands then.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It could be more than 5,000 depending on each particular village. I don't want to lead people astray, but the point is to always get advice before you sign any of these documents in either of these models, because you need to get that advice to understand, what am I getting into? Some of my clients have actually got financial advice, which is very important, because with retirement villages, there are ongoing costs payable every month or every fortnight, service charges. Personal charges are also can be tacked on, but they're in addition. So you actually need to get someone to give you a budget. Can I afford to go into a retirement village? It's very, very important to get that advice up front. But yeah, I just thought, look, I think it's good to clarify the difference between the two, because there are quite a number of differences, as we've said this morning. And if you're thinking of doing or downsizing into any one of these types of structures, definitely go see a lawyer about it before you make that decision. Really important.
Doing the research. We always say it is important. And coming up next, the Queensland e-conveyancing mandate is commencing on the 20th of February, 2023. Coming up quick. And what does this mean for Queenslanders? Despina has all the details on Talking Law in just a moment.